hey, this person's new, like, give them a break. Usually, like, I don't say it like that, but okay, we're on.
We're still yet to come on Facebook.
So we're talking about the holiday rush. All of our viewers are excited for this holiday season.
Cool. We are live.
I'm personally still excited for like the holidays. Like this time
I'm
year,
kind of
but...
like in my family. I'm the Grinch of my family with the holiday season.
Oh really?
Oh yeah.
I'm like the opposite. I own a Santa suit that I wear and stuff, so it's like night and day right now for the holiday season.
Fair enough. Yeah. So let's get into it. This is YQL Express. I'm Devin Hargreaves, Derek St. Jean, and then let's talk. Actually. Have you heard of Theoretically Brewing?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I love it.
I was gonna say, I know it's one of your favorite places in town here, but then as well, like they're pretty, what would the word be, like community-minded business? Like they're definitely like a small business that gets involved often, and then kind of speaks towards topics that the business community usually is like in opposition to sometimes, or sometimes like. What, sorry?
Mute.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're vocal on like issues that need to be talked about, which is pretty good.
Yeah. Actually, talking about Christmas ties right into that. I wanted to give them a shout out tonight. One of their founders, Kelty, decided she's going to do a year with just as much local as she can, like including food.
Really?
Entertainment, everything is all going to be local.
Really? Wow. That's definitely something that I think a lot of people don't realize, like how hard it is to manage that, where it's like so many people are like, oh, shop local, spend local, stuff like that. Like it's a sentiment that people really share, but it's a thing that a lot of businesses can't always like stick to, and then sometimes it's also a thing.
This isn't so much of a business thing, it's something she's doing personally.
Oh, personally, that's even harder.
That's even harder.
Yeah, I was going to say from a business standpoint, I bet you like it would be like difficult, but you could pull it off. But like as an individual, like that's very hard, right?
Well, they're already still local, right? Like all of their malt and such comes from Alberta, so they're keeping it like provincially local.
Yeah, and the scope makes it harder. Could you imagine just shopping in Lethbridge? It's like, where do I get clothes?
I was like, oh, okay, you're gonna shop local, right?
Yeah.
So like food, Walmart still counts, right? No, not with this mindset.
Walmart wouldn't, but you could like eat at like, or you could get groceries like from
London
Road, Urban Grocer. I'm trying to think. Would No Frills count? Because like I know you like the owner is probably local, if that makes sense.
That's a good question.
Maybe it would.
Kelty, if you're watching, or if you do watch this,
answer if you can shop at No Frills during this challenge.
But anyhow, she started a blog, so people can go check it out, see her progress, and things like that. Combining it as well with like being minimalistic. So I thought that was really cool, like downsize.
I find those two trends kind of blend, though. You know, where it's like it's kind of a trend where it's like you can kind of tackle like income disparity, climate change, like all those things at once by kind of as an individual realizing like, you know, have less waste and then support your community. Because in like a global model, a lot of people are looking at it now and they're like, the best way we can do like well globally is if you do well locally, right? So
definitely,
it's kind of that push back to your home sort of thing.
Well, that ties in. We were going to kind of recap today some of our past shows. This isn't one we talked about, but I guess that kind of ties into the tariffs and things like that.
That's like way back now, I guess.
Yeah, that's way back.
Back to our first couple shows when we talked about the tariffs.
I feel like that's all we talked about then.
Yeah, that's true. And like on that strand too, like it's kind of sad, but what's the dollar at right now? 76 cents?
I haven't checked.
Or something like that, I think. Like I remember hearing recently like the dollar took a really low hit recently, which isn't a great thing for Canada, but I think there's hope in Canada right now, because like we have a provincial and a federal election around the corner, and neither of those seem as not necessarily dire, but like they seem a little bit more civil than like what we're seeing in America right now. Like there's bomb threats to like people who oppose the president, and then the president comes out and says bomb threats are bad, but still the media's worse. You know what I mean?
Drugs
it's just
are
like,
bad. Okay.
Yeah, it's like
South Park going up there.
More or less, like he's a walking parody right now, and like all he does is rally. He doesn't do a single like bit of policy. Like it's a shit show over
He's
there.
going to put South Park out of business. They only became big because they took what's currently happening too far.
And now they're just like, we can't
you
go
can't
further.
take any further.
There's too much satire in the modern world. Like,
there's too much,
But like even Beaverton in Canada here makes jokes about how like what they produce is real. Like it's real journalism now. You know what I mean? Where they're like, oh shit, like what we just made a joke about is happening, and like it's testy humor. But like there was that one with like the school shooting. Or the mass shooting layout. Have you seen that post that the Beaverton does?
I've heard about it vaguely, but I didn't see it.
Yeah, every time like a shooting happens in America, they post the same thing where it's like shooting in blank dead. We send our thoughts and prayers or something like that, just to kind of point out how consistent this stuff happens in America is. But yeah, it's a weird economic reality, especially like going into the holiday season. Like it's tough to tell like how local businesses are going to do, how like Canadian industry is going to do as well. I think this time of year though is kind of always like a reset period for everyone, where it's you kind of take a break from your politics, you take a break from your economics, and you just kind of breathe, and then you're like, okay, let's like
and worry about the credit card in January.
Yeah, focus on our family. By family, we mean our debt. And then everyone just kind of like gets a refresher, and then like they start again next year. So like maybe we could see a turn of tide. Again, like we've talked about how I'm a little bit too optimistic. Yeah, with a lot of this stuff. So time will tell, I guess. But so we did Terrace, and then after that it would have been downtown after that, or conversion therapy?
Would have been conversion therapy,
which has been like going well, I would say. Like you've had a lot.
Conversion therapy is never going well. The petition to ban it is going great.
Conversion therapy's at an all-time high. We're doing it. We're putting people through trauma. Like
for those of you just tuning in, we've had Jen Takahashi on before. I believe we did briefly talk about it with Marie Fitzpatrick, MLA for Lethbridge East as well. But yeah, myself and Jen Takahashi have launched a federal petition to ban it across Canada. You need 500 to present in the House of Commons. We're just short of 9,000 as of tonight. So it's definitely getting noticed. It's picking up momentum. And yeah, no, it's great to see where it goes. I was on radio bright and early this morning in Montreal.
Yeah. No, it's really surprising to see like who's covering it, and I think like most of the nation is kind of having a similar reaction to what I had, where they're like, oh wow, this is still a thing that's happening. Like I have seen a couple of frustrating comments where people are like, they're taking our rights away. Like if we want to be like abused for our sexualities, like damn, we want our government to give us that right.
But this is why it's a ban on conversion therapy for minors. If you want to abuse yourself,
that's your right as an adult.
Not in favor of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think that comes down to just a lot of people not understanding the like concept, and like of course it's headline news where they see the headline and then they just comment what comes to their mind rather than reading the article. That happens all the time. So a lot of people are like, conversion therapy ban, you're taking away something from me, you know?
I found out last week that I'm going to hell.
You are?
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Who said that? God?
No, somebody on... Did you see that school board trustee in BC?
Oh, yeah, okay.
She didn't actually win.
Of course
Did you see about that? She totally
like I saw her
at the petition.
Yeah, I saw her like attack on the petition. So
one of the comments on it, like one of the first ones, like whoever wrote this petition is like, go to hell. It's like I kind of wanted to comment back, but
it's like
I've got better things to do with my time.
Yeah, and like with that, like let your friends like kind of come in to fight that battle for you right now, because like your name's tied to it, right? Whereas like.
I've slept. We both have trolls now.
Yeah, that's true. Watch. We'll get like a bunch of comments now when we like do this. It'll flag it. Like, yeah, exactly. Maybe those two viewers are that trustee and the person who left the comment. Though it's probably my mom. Yeah,
my mom. But yeah, so that's going great. We're actually getting some movement on potentially getting legislation in place.
Yeah,
I've been on with the MP's offices. We're getting so much.
Yeah,
so I don't want to say too much more than that on it.
Yeah,
right now,
well, we leave some to the... Yeah, it wasn't my mom, right? So there you go. So we know one of our viewers who that is. But yeah, like that's definitely something positive to see in politics right now, too, because It's not something that's kind of focusing on like the trench fighting of what party colors you wear, whereas more now it's like this is something we should all be able to agree on and like move forward on.
It's not even gay rights, it's human rights.
Oh, of course, right? And like that's something a lot of people have like difficulty understanding as a concept, but it's something that we need to get to as a culture, right?
Yeah.
So,
and then your guest, we had
Sheva, yeah. So, and we talked about downtown with parking and some of the opioid crisis and things like that, which we do kind of have a follow-up to, because her organization, Downtown BRZ, or I guess not hers, but the one she represented, actually approached City Council recently. So they kind of did a debrief of like some of the struggles they're facing as an organization, some of the concerns of local businesses, and then just kind of bringing it to the council's attention to be like, hey, we still need your attention and your support. I know a lot of people want to take aim at City Council and the City of Lethbridge, and then specifically like our mayor, Chris Spearman, right now over a lot of this, but I think that's inappropriate, and I think it's at this point where it's like, okay, you had your time to bitch, grow up, and like I'm saying this, like, please troll me if you have to right now over this.
You said shit earlier. You said bitch now. Are
yeah,
you okay today?
doing a little bit of a wow review count.
Swimmer off today.
Yeah, there we go. It's the controversial press, right? That's how we get coverage.
You're being controversial.
Yeah, that's true. It's like,
and I'm getting trolls now.
Yeah.
we've changed.
We've changed.
It's like, what's that movie where they swap bodies?
Friday, or not Friday the 13th. Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
Completely different. I had the Halloween movies in my head right there. So, Freaky, yeah, that's it. Freaky the 13th.
So whose body is Jason?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, like it's one of those ones where it's like, okay, you need to realize now that like this isn't anyone's fault.
Are you talking about like the opioid?
The opioid crisis, sorry. And realize that like the only way we can do work on it is in a specific way. Your way of thinking and your way of acting right now does not like compete. Like it can't be a part of the solution. And it's not a matter of like oppressing you or silencing your rights or your opinions. It's just a matter of this isn't going to help.
It's not a Spearman issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a safe consumption site issue. It's a addiction and epidemic issue.
It's a health like concern, right?
If
like,
anything, the safe consumption site is raising the amount of safety. In Lethbridge, there's not meth tourism. You're not coming here because there's a safe consumption site. There's one in Calgary as well. You've got ones in Vancouver where it's way warmer outside anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And like that's where it's like, and especially like with the downtown is like a concept right now is your way to support the city right now, your way to support like local business is to be in their space, spend money, like commute, have conversations with these people. Downtown only becomes scary when you abandon it. It only becomes an issue when people aren't shopping there. Like it's one of those things where it really frustrates me.
Just tying in today.
It does, right? Like it frustrates me because
support
like
local. Shop,
yeah, exactly.
Go
support local, and when I mean support local, help those in need, and also spend money at the businesses who are your neighbor. Like it's kind of a concept that kind of covers so many categories where people like to pick and choose when it's like a point to be local. You know, they like to be local when it's like, I support the Hurricanes and I shop at like
when it's a hashtag on Instagram.
Yeah, when it's something like friendly and something like
hashtag support local.
Yeah.
Hashtag blast.
Yeah, exactly, right? Where it's like when you have to do the hard work, people are like, oh, well then my community is second, right? Like now I'm gonna start focusing on myself. But it's one of those things where it's like you have to get into those spaces and then stop looking at it as a place of fear. Look at it as like, how can I help these people? How can I make their days like better? Like, because they're definitely suffering more than you are. And then also, like, if you're so worried about your local businesses going out of business, spend money there. Like, support them. You have a way of doing that every day of your life that you shouldn't be complaining, oh, the drugs are putting the businesses out of business, when it's like, no, it's actually you. You're the one putting them out of business. You're the one causing you're making it more of an issue for these businesses to survive, and you're making it tougher for these individuals to get help. Like, you got to focus on yourself, right?
And then I think I mentioned this to you earlier. Did you see that or that news article that went out that we're looking like in the next while,
Yeah.
we could have a 95% occupancy rate in downtown Lethbridge as far as businesses.
And that's something that like should excite more people than I think it will
I'm
down the road.
extremely excited. I just hope that they're like businesses we need, not.
Yeah, well, and of course, like there's like going to be critiques of that right away because people are going to be like, how many of those are liquor stores, dollar stores?
No, it's most
stores,
of them are
like,
pot shops.
Yeah, well, and like I guess that's another one that I still haven't quite realized that it's legal yet in my head.
Walk around the block.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there's the one right around the corner from our office here, the Spirit.
There's the Smoke Hut.
And
Up by Drunken Sailor, there's that. Yeah, there's Spirit Leaf. Oh,
there's Spirit Leaf. Yeah, I
don't know where that one is.
To, like, know right now. I don't know if I'll develop a brand loyalty in any regard. They all have Leaf in their name. That's what
you still have yet to agree to smoke.
Well, that's true. Like,
and then
I still haven't yet.
What I'm excited about is the Esquire's one. Looks like it's turning into something.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Like for like cannabis sales or just something in general?
I don't know.
Oh,
It says Cannabis Culture on there, which is a big marijuana magazine.
Okay.
And then it's something else. The Cannabis Culture logo is also in the Amsterdam Fog one, which is right up here. So I'm not sure if they're sponsoring them or like what the deal is there.
And like that building is like, it was so sad to see Esquires go, but like
I liked that building.
That building can be used for something like
the second.
If somebody figures out like the right business to put in there, it's like it's sold, right? And I never knew why Esquires went out. I never thought to ask questions for that.
The owner was done, so they tried to sell the business, and they couldn't. So they just sold the building.
Okay. So then that wasn't like an issue of like them not being popular.
I don't think so.
Not
Not as far as I'm aware. I could stand to be correct.
Yeah, and like that's a better thing than other alternatives, right? But yeah, like if you look at Calgary and stuff, like Calgary's downtown occupancy is going down. So people have to realize like Lethbridge is kind of becoming this like, I'd say we're in a boom as a community right now. Like, I don't know if that's the proper terminology to use, but
we're getting Cavendish Farms, which will have like the increased plant there.
Yeah, when like investors are looking at this province and this region, they're looking around, and right now Red Deer's population is decreasing.
Is it?
It is actually, yeah. That's behind the scenes knowledge that I know, but come census time, people will be surprised. Which is part of like second point is that Lethbridge's like population continues to increase, and we have a very sustainable population, which is good. Like our like increases aren't like dramatic, right? It's like a consistent increase, which is what you'd prefer to see as a community.
Well, that gives you time to grow and like build your resources and
not like have to deal with like things overnight. Like you can definitely steadily grow with your population. Calgary's downtown is slowly like losing occupancy. Like there's skyscrapers there that are like the main floors might be covered, but like everything up is vacant or like scattered out through like things like that. So it's like that's not as visible. Whereas like when you're in Lethbridge, if a business is closed or if a building isn't being used, you see it. So there's a perception that like our downtown's dead when it's like you see one door closed out of 18. Like the ratios there, you know what I mean? Where it's like people aren't looking at it like that. They're just like, man, there's an empty building. This is ridiculous. We're such a small community. And it's like, we're bigger than you think. And then like one out of 18.
I also wonder how many of these marijuana shops are going to go out of business though, because it's going to be a hell of a competitive market.
Yeah, and like that will happen. Obviously, like there's going to be more businesses that will close. But I think with downtown Lethbridge, like it's very easy to get something to take its place.
And then especially like fact check this one. A friend of mine was telling me that Aurora, which is one of the biggest, it's like top 3, I think they said, producers of cannabis in Alberta, anyway.
Okay.
Said they're gonna drop like I think it was a gram down to like $3 or $4.
Really?
So they're gonna just undercut the whole business if they do that. Because
then they win.
Well, right now you're looking at like 7 or 8 or things like that to buy it legally, right?
Do you know what that's compared to like black market rates? Is that also beating black market? Like,
I don't know. I'm not familiar with black market rates.
Any of our viewers want to...
Brandon, if you're watching, help us out. No, I think black market would probably be about this thing.
Okay. And then that's a huge game changer. If they're competing with that price point, then...
Well, you have to compete with the black market.
They do, right? Especially now. Like, once that concept is, like, snuffed from our culture, then they can start to raise their rates, which isn't surprising. We've had this same argument over like liquor in the past. Like, so like that's a thing that will happen. Like look at liquor today. Like we're used to the prices, but like those prices aren't really what the
you're saying undercut the
like,
black market and then slowly.
Yeah, that's really like the plan, and like I don't blame them for that because like.
Will they raise the price or just raise the taxes on them?
I feel like the price will raise. I don't think like the taxes necessarily will, because like they might, like with liquor they're kind of like half and half, you know, where it's like they charge you worth like what the product's not worth. Like really, like a bottle of rum, no matter how good quality of it, doesn't cost what it does in store, if that makes sense. There's a huge markup for it just because there's only one place you can get it from, and then it is taxed because they're like. The sin tax is like kind of a concept that I think is really weird.
I hate it.
Just like, it makes to me.
One day
it
I'll
makes
have
sense.
to sit down and calculate how much of my budget
goes to like the sin tax.
Enough
like,
to buy my way into heaven, probably.
Is it a Catholicism where you can do that or whatever? Like you can pay in gold.
Luther.
Yeah.
Man, hi Brandy.
Hello.
Thanks for tuning in.
Oh, and hi Alan.
Hey Alan. I can't remember if I sent you the number. Did you see how much Alberta alone sold in legal marijuana sales the day of legalization?
Wasn't it? Did you say
700,000
or 700
plus
yeah.
First day?
Do you know what that's like? What would be like a good measure to compare that to? I guess, or is that like just kind of something that we're?
How can we find a measure to compare it to when?
That's true.
This is
like,
the first time that it's actually being documented.
That's fair. Because like I'm curious, I guess like what like daily sales of like liquor are as like a concept compared.
Granted, people aren't going to be buying pot or marijuana in that large of quantities
ever again
every day.
Yeah,
did you see some of those people coming out?
Yeah,
that made the news with like $300 worth of marijuana.
Did you hear about the Girl Scout who who sold her Girl Scout cookies outside of the opening, and then she got through her box almost immediately, or like her like pallet or whatever is worth.
You're never going to get that chance again.
Yes. Every time I think about like somebody who's like, marijuana's going to endanger our youth, I'm like, what are you kidding about? They're entrepreneurs. Like, it's giving these kids an option.
Although I think Alberta actually did this pretty well.
Ontario
is getting so many complaints over their online system.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, like, I've heard a little bit of like product shortages, things like that. There was 2 or 3 stores closed in Edmonton a couple days after legalization because they had no product.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. And like, I think that'll be curious to see how, like, will we have a second boom with this? Because, like, since they can't really like offer like quantities that people need at that moment, like, do we think
will go back to their dealer until it becomes more
like accessible,
and it's actually there, right?
Yeah,
I think if you're going to have a second boom, it's going to come when they make sprays and edibles. And things like that.
That's true. Because like I know a lot of people were frustrated that wasn't legal to begin with. So like, it's definitely something that I think.
Well, just think how many like. You're gonna have to if they allow things like Amsterdam where you can smoke in the building and things like that. That one also might affect it as well, but that would be more for those businesses. I don't think that would affect sales of the product itself.
No, but you're right. Like the business would see like an increase in sales if it was able to. That's what I think we need. I think we need a place where like people can use this like product in a space, like a pub or like a bar of sorts. Just because it's kind of like a lot of people don't like to drink at home all the time. You know what I mean? Like they kind of like to be social with drinking. So it's like I could see the same thing with like a lot of new users of cannabis. Like
that's a good point. New users
be in like a public place with it, because like even though it's legal right now, I still know a lot of people who are still like I wouldn't say like the more like veteran users. They're not like, and I don't mean veterans as people who served in the war, but I mean people who have like used the substance for like a long time. I don't think they're like nervous about using it, but I still think like people who haven't used it but like want to try it now that it's legal are still like, they feel like they're breaking a law, you know what I mean? That I think like if you made like a public space of some sort, and like I don't mean like public as in like I guess you can't smoke it in public right now. But,
that depends on regional laws.
Yeah.
If you're watching, comment. We are live.
Yeah,
Read your
definitely.
comment.
Any comments?
Let us know if you've smoked, if you haven't smoked, what you think of legalization. If you hate it, say it.
It's not illegal anymore. you can admit to it.
With that, the biggest complaint that I've heard out of all this with legal marijuana is the amount of plastic packaging for like a single joint or things like that.
Because like, aren't the containers for like a small quantity, like a cookie jar almost size? Like I've seen like a lot of people like share like pictures of their product and stuff, and like they'll order like a reasonable amount, and then it comes in like individual like a margarine container worth of like packaging. But I've heard like, isn't the packaging like a biodegradable plastic, or
I have no idea.
I'm not too sure with that, but like as far as I know, that was like on one part like safety like concerns. So it's like you're transporting a substance that like, and I don't mean this like rudely, but like could be dangerous to somebody, you know, where it's like, I think that's...
Cigarettes have less packaging.
That's what I mean. I think it's taboo. So, like, I think a lot of people want it, like, as, like, packaged as they can so that they still don't have to see it or touch it, you know? And then with that, like, the smell is, I guess not. Or the smell is pungent even if it's just, like, not used yet, correct? Like, just, like, the substance. But like,
too, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's other like food in a grocery store that smells worse, right? Like when you're stocking the shelves. So,
I'm curious to see where those tax dollars are going to go now.
I think that the packaging will change just because it's like I would say it's unnecessary.
Too many hippies off.
Yeah, well, and that's like a huge thing right now too. Is like the people who are using it.
The people that are using it are the environmentalists.
Yeah, that's what so give us our biodegradable small packaging. I always assumed they were going to be in like film or like pill bottles. That's kind of what I thought in my head when I was like,
there was that one government link that put that.
Yeah, because
I think it comes down to each province to.
Yeah, and I think like in the states in America that have legalized it, I think they use like pill bottles, right? Yeah. So it's like,
I have no idea.
It's one of those ones where it's like, why not, right? Like, I don't see how that's any different from like the big containers that they're using right now. But
okay, let's move on. We've talked about way too long.
What do you want to talk about?
Was there anything else?
Provincial election? That's another one that we can talk about. There's a cool...
Can we just talk about Maxime Bernier quick?
Sure. What came up with him?
Oh, man. The guy still has no platform.
Okay.
And yet his party has over 20,000 members.
I wouldn't doubt that.
I checked the website today, right? Just because I didn't want to be called out for factual incorrectness. There's still no platform there. All that website says is look at Maxime's
like
leadership platform.
Yeah.
They're like, it'll be almost the same.
And then even then, like I criticize the UCP for the same stuff right now, where it's like...
I'll give his new party a break, right? They just found it. He didn't expect to start a new party.
But I hate Derek Philbrand, but like he's moving quick on his stuff. Like
he just got acclaimed.
I was gonna say I feel bad for him because like a lot of like news outlets were trying to make it seem better, where they're like Derek Philbrand wins like election race for new party for leadership, but it's like no, he was acclaimed. No one ran against him, and then he was even interviewed and he said, "I wish somebody would have ran against him." Is like
it would have made him look more.
Yeah, like because now it's a really tough situation for him. But like in his defense, and then in criticism of like right wing parties in Canada right now, like he's starting to put in way more legwork than I've seen anyone else do. Being like, here's what I want, here's what I stand for, here's what you're voting for. Whereas
Alberta party, take a note.
Whereas like yeah, and like even the UCP right now, it's like a lot of people don't know what they stand for, but it's because they're playing the politics of, as long as we can get away with this stuff, we just would rather have people supporting us than saying something that like loses support, you know? So if we just keep this like image that people have in their heads of us, they support that concept, great. They don't understand that concept they have in their head isn't the reality of the party, right?
True.
Same thing with
I'll also give the NDP this, that they're running a hell of a good PR campaign this year as compared to like prior years and things like that. Like after they took government, they just completely mobilized, and you've got to be honest. They've been running an impressive PR strategy. Yeah, definitely. Like, and I think the NDP like needs more credit where it's due, especially like as we're heading into this election.
when so many people hate them for completely unjustified reasons. Like, that's the most frustrating thing for me, is it's like, if you hate or support a party based off of like just what you want to think they are, like read one article in them and then make your choice. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't be like it was the same thing with like before Justin Trudeau was even elected. People are like, oh, I hate like Trudeau because it's the name. Like, I know his dad, and then even then, a lot of the hate for his dad, I think, was unfounded. Even as like as an Albertan, I'm probably throwing
really
in my.
Screwed Alberta.
I was gonna say I'm probably like on air burning my like Alberta.
I'm gonna walk
right
out
there.
on you.
Yeah, be like, I support Pierre Trudeau. I'm the enemy to you. That's what a lot of people probably think of whenever you say Pierre Trudeau wasn't that bad. He did a lot of good things for Canada. He was a Canadian prime minister, but the prairies really like having a prairie prime minister. That's how I see it personally. Because didn't you see that study where it's like, what was it? Older generations like feel more like pride to their province than their like federal government. I think it was like their Canadian like.
Well, Albertans anyway.
Like Albertan before Canadian, whereas like me personally, it's like Canadian, Lethbridge, then Alberta. If that makes sense, is how I kind of view my allegiances.
I'm very provincially loyal.
Yeah, it's like I love the province.
I'll go for MLA.
Yeah, definitely.
MP.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like I even like looking at it like that. It's just like for me, it's like, what am I politically? It's like, okay, first and foremost, I'm Canadian because I realize that holds more international weight in the bigger picture. Personally, where it's like nitty gritty, what affects me day to day. It's my like municipality, my province, right?
I'm sitting over here missing Ted Morton yelling about building a firewall between Alberta and Ottawa.
Fair enough.
Okay, political action committees.
This is something a little bit more like near and dear to like my political experience as well. Like, this is something that like Alberta Liberals have really fought against, and like David Conn in specific has definitely like taken the charge towards, just because like what's the one going around right now?
Well, I told you that.
Building Alberta's future.
I'm gonna have to bite my tongue and laud some praise on the Alberta Liberals. Because what was it, a year or 2 years ago? It was last year.
Yeah,
they were pushing to increase restrictions on political action committees. So for those of you tuning in who don't know what that is, there are laws in place about advertising during an election for political parties, things like that. You can't take donations from unions or corporations.
But
they're very limited.
Which is why these exist. Like,
so political action committee is. If you can explain this better.
It's like it's not the party, but like
Let's form a separate group.
Yeah, but like it's the party, like, and it's full like
it's a loophole.
Yeah, it's definitely a loophole. Like, anyone who tells you their political action committee isn't like the party's like entity is trying to convince you that because they're probably a part of one or a part of a party that's benefiting from one. Yeah. Political action committees are like just a way for you to get around like different like donation restrictions, and as well it gives you like a shadow ability in politics. Sound like I'm describing like a card game or something like Magic the Gathering right now, but like it allows you to like bring in money that like of course like that party's not going to see, but it can still like pump out their message. So like as an example right now, I believe it's called like Building Alberta's Future or something. It's like the political action committee. It's kind of this like, it's not anti-NDP, but like all the ads that you hear for
but it's pro-UCP.
Yeah, all the ads are like
you got to be honest. The NDP have their own path.
Well, of course, like they have theirs. It's just like this is just a relevant example because like I've seen it on the news.
This is the one that's
it's on the radio like all the time, and it's like the one where it's like, oh, the carbon tax is going to destroy your family and tear your kids by pieces, and like it goes through all this like doom and gloom, and they're like, Rachel Notley doesn't care about you, and her best friend's Justin Trudeau, and if you want to like do this, you should look for alternatives. Wink, wink, Jason Kenney. So it's like you know who's telling you that image, and it's like the really frustrating thing about it is that like so many people don't understand that. They think political action committees are like a committee that's like nonpartisan that comes into the realm and is like, oh hey, from a nonpartisan perspective, a completely rational middle ground approach, we think this political party is better for you. That's not the case. It's being funded.
That's more
staffed,
of a
it's
lobby
like,
group that is,
Yeah.
it's like, oh,
Yeah.
this party better represents our interests on this issue, but we'll campaign, like, kind of like what I'm doing with conversion therapy, right? I'll work with anyone, I'll campaign to everyone, whereas these political action...
They're directly on the payroll of, like, or at
No,
least
they're
like,
providing the payroll
or I
to...
guess, yeah, like the other way around. Like, they're...
And you know why you're hearing so much from, what's that group you just said?
I think it's Building Alberta's Future or something
is
is what they're
because
called.
there will be laws in place, I can't remember, either November 1st or December 1st, of how much they could spend because they're in like, the election cycle. But until then,
It's free reign,
I think it was like November, the end of November they have until. So they're just dumping all of this money from auto dealers into these attack ads, right? Because then once the red drops, then they have to, like, we'll go into an election year. And
Yeah. It's like one of those ones where it's like, for me personally, like as somebody like interested in like provincial politics and then like as well like on our show here, like as like a moment of like education, like learn about these things and like understand what they're designed for and like who's backing them, just because these things are so vicious in my opinion, where it's like you can fall victim to these way easier than a political party, because like with a political party you know who they are, you have a color of them,
political action,
like
you're getting
you
bombarded with this information.
Yeah, they
usually has a bright and shiny name that makes it sound like.
Yeah, and they definitely play off of like the emotions of like voters and then the worries of voters. So like for an NDP political action committee, you'll see a lot of like discussion around how like Jason Kenney is going to threaten different rights and cuts and all that. From like the UCP political action committees, you're going to see a lot more about how taxation is going to hurt you and how like your values are going to be threatened and so on and so forth. Like they play the game to who they know will listen to them, kind of thing. Except there's just an authority around them that political parties don't have, because political parties have authorities, but it's really easy to be like, well, I just don't believe in what you value, right? And then the conversation's done and they have no power over you. It's harder to say that to a political action committee because they don't have that same like partisan identity, even though they are partisan, right? So that's something I would say, like as a voter, is like definitely become more aware of those things, and like there's no harm after you just know who's funding them and where they're coming from and then how they're allowed to exist, right? But I guess like some of the background for that is that the Alberta Liberals have like pushed for more restrictions on them.
I actually supported that just because it made sense. Don't try to deal with it now when we're a year out from elections. Deal with it 2 years in advance.
Yeah. And then the NDP government like chose not to act.
But they just had launched their own political, or a political action committee had launched. Yeah. That was a former NDP staffer right about the time that was coming out.
Yeah. So then
David Swan, right, I believe, was the one who brought that up, because he was not elected.
No, yeah, so it would have been Swan, because Swan's the Liberal that holds a seat right now. Did you see the, on the provincial election still, did you see the Ellis poll? It's like, Farron Ellis, he used to be councillor, and he's, I don't know his official
he's at the college.
Yeah, he teaches some sort of
like stats and data accumulation, I think.
But he does. I'll get into why this is a bad thing in a second here. He does like phone-in polls where he'll like call like phone books worth of people in Alberta.
Can we clarify? It's not Farron Ellis sitting there just calling.
Yeah, I guess like
they utilize students for different classes.
Yeah, it's
political, local government class, a few other ones. I had to do it in college.
Yeah. It's not just like it's not just Farron Ellis on a spare time.
That's why I had to throw that in there. I had like this picture of him at his desk.
There's definitely like a research element to it, but
that sounds more like something I would do.
Yeah, they can ask.
The Hargreaves poll. I sat here in college.
But yeah, they recently did one on the provincial election, and their poll said that the UCP has 48%
I did
see
that, and was that like 20 something?
Yeah, 29 or something, I think, and then
I didn't realize that was him.
Yeah, or I'm assuming it was because it said local Lethbridge College poll, so I'm like, he's the only one who does it. And then what was interesting about this poll in particular, I'll get into a second why it's a bad poll. But what's interesting about it was that the Alberta Party support was like lower than predicted, and then the Liberal support was higher than predicted, which I was like, weird, you know? Like those two like ones I think shot out the most to me, because I'm like, like you never would have like thought that like. In my mind, I always just assumed that the Alberta Party was like gaining more support than the Liberal Party, but then it's kind of interesting to see
to a lot of people lately who are getting really disenfranchised with them.
With the Alberta Party?
Yeah, who thought that they would be like a more progressive conservative.
They've definitely like struggled to find their like position. You know,
hire me. I could run better HR than that party's run lately.
There we go. Well, if anyone wants to offer a job, we got a candidate here. Who's
not a political endorsement. I'm just saying somebody needs to figure out what the hell they're doing.
But yeah, like one thing with like the poll though is to take it like not necessarily with a grain of salt, but like understand again like how that poll was done. Yeah. They do phone interviews. So right off the get-go, you have to ask, like, and they don't do, like, cell phone as far as I know. They don't call cell phones, it's just landlines. You might be able to correct that, but...
I think it's like I don't know, it's a call list, I can't remember.
Oh, okay. So
I haven't been in college.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, first of all, it's like, if you're calling people, you have to ask the question of, like, who's going to answer their phone, who's going to have a phone on the call list. So it's like right away, and like... Oh,
you're saying they're getting an older demographic?
Definitely, absolutely. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that like who they're polling are people over the age of 40. Like, I can probably say that with like a huge certainty there.
Does your family still have a landline?
We do, yes.
My mom took hers out. Like,
yeah, but it's like it's one that's like more of a habit for my parents who grew up with it, whereas like I will never own a landline in my life. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like... And I'm getting old, too, so it's like that's when I can realize that having landline is a very strange concept to a lot of people.
But we still remember them. We grew up with them.
Yeah, that's true. But, like, have we answered a political
big
survey?
Brother yelling at you. I'm trying to use the damn internet. Like.
Exactly, yeah. But, yeah, so, like, take that to mind when you read polls like this and any polls that come out during the election. Like, who did they poll and then how did they poll them? Because I know, like, that doesn't seem like a difference, but, like, going on a street corner and asking people questions versus phoning someone versus doing an online survey, which is doing a open house survey, like
standing on the corner is how you end up in Wilson Toast Stairs.
Yeah, there you go. But definitely.
They'll think you're the pro.
Oh, do we have a laugh emoji? Somebody laughing at us?
Oh, we do too.
Is that a good or a bad laugh?
They're laughing at me threatening you the rest of the Toast.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like just know where like those numbers are coming from, because every way you gather data will definitely affect the results you have, and like that's something a lot of people don't always realize, especially like coming up to an election where you're going to see so many different types of like polling, stuff like that. My favorite is when every time a poll comes out, there's always somebody on Facebook in the comments on the global news thread being like, I wasn't polled, and it's like, first of all, you don't have to be for these to be accurate.
Also,
but
they're not calling every person.
Yes, like, could you imagine doing a survey where we interviewed every single person, even the census, a government census? How
pissed everyone would be if they got a call for every damn survey.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's just like, just know where those numbers are coming from, and just know what those numbers are telling you. Don't like fully trust them. Of course, with this one, like, it did give us an interesting bit of like information, knowing that like those statistics with the Alberta and the Liberal Party.
I don't recall theirs. Who was higher, the Alberta Party or the Liberals?
It was Liberals. So in this poll, I think it was like Alberta Party was at 8, and then Liberals were at 12, I believe.
Con's also been busting his ass all over Alberta.
David Con has been one of like the most like proactive leaders out of any of the provincial parties right now. Like.
Also, you do have to keep in mind with that he's not elected, so he has more time to be out and touring. It's like Jagmeet Singh, right?
Of course, yeah. Like, it's definitely a different type of leadership in that regard, but
did you notice
I think he deserves more credit some days with that.
Did you notice how much time Trudeau's taken on calling that by-election?
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that, because then it's currently threatening like Singh's chances. It's going to make Singh look so bad.
If he doesn't get elected, how is he going to have any credibility for the...
Yeah. But that's probably
what he's doing.
Yeah, like it's... How can I take...
He found somebody else who's photogenic and he doesn't want the competition.
another heartthrob young male to lead the global stage.
Although Scheer's been looking pretty impressive lately. Like he's keeping it clean.
Yeah, like
he's distanced now from Bernier.
He's gotten that memo, I think, finally, where it's like,
don't be too far right.
Yeah, like conservative governments have a better, or like conservative parties have a better chance of getting elected the less they talk. It's one of those things where it's like that
sounds like something you could put on a bumper sticker or a t-shirt.
But like it's something that's like hurting them all the time, right? So if you look through the history of Alberta and the federal government, it's like Stephen Harper shot himself in the foot with the cultural practices. They just kept talking until they got something that was uncompromisable. Danielle Smith with the Wild Rose Party.
No, she got canned because she crossed the floor.
But this was before, like when she ran her election.
Oh.
Wasn't that the Lake of Fire year? Or like one of her.
Has that ended?
Well, the Lake of Fire is still real in Alberta for a lot of people. But like, yeah, I thought Danielle Smith's thing was that she like supported one of the Wild Rose candidates who was getting pretty extremist, and then people are like, nah, like cut the bad fruit off the tree kind of thing.
You're right.
And then
she got ousted though after she crossed the floor.
Oh yeah, like because then she was elected, her party didn't win, but then she floor crossed, and then people are like, you are never going to be elected again.
People aren't a big fan of floor crossers.
Yeah, they aren't. Like any party, any level of government, people hate that.
Remember Belinda Stronach?
I'm trying to remember the.
Jesse remembers it.
Give me a hint. Like
federal. Did she go? Do you remember Jesse? Was it
like,
conservative to liberal?
Is this the just recent one? Like the one that?
No,
like
this was
conservative liberal.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it was.
What year was this?
I'll look it up after. I don't remember. It was a side comment, but she lost so much popularity.
Yeah, because like that just happened, whereas like people liked it in this case. There was that liberal that crossed floors to the conservatives, and she was like
that was a good
Royal
PR.
Canadian Air
They
Force
totally
person.
won up that.
Oh, like, and that's
the conservatives marketed that one very well.
Yeah, definitely. Like they knew that they had that in the gun, so they made a clean shot with it. But yeah, Prentice again. Huge part of the reason the NDP took that election was because when he was in leadership of the Conservative Party provincially here, he made the what was it? Alberta's
look in the mirror,
or look at the mirror, and then there was the bad at math comment or whatever or something like. Yeah. So it's like if you're
if you're Doug Ford,
Ford,
talk a lot of crap.
We're in a year or in a day and age where that gets you elected somehow, but I would recommend.
And the NDP are pushing a pipeline.
Yeah,
who'd have thought?
It's a weird time to be alive right now. Politics don't make sense. Down is up and up is left. Like, I don't know. That seemed like it could have been a good pun for something political.
I'm not sure where you're going with that. That sounds like a trailer park place.
Like the S quote, like, like, you know what they say. Like, yeah, but I think it's going to be an interesting next couple months, or I guess year now for Canadians, because we're going into, or year now for Albertans, because we're going into a provincial and a federal election here.
I love the fact that I'm just going to be able to judge everybody. So.
don't have to play on a team or anything. No.
Not at all.
Do we have any comments again from the audience? No. Definitely, anyone watching, feel free to post us any question if you have any trolls. I guess if you want to
don't call our audience trolls. You were just talking about people putting their foot in their mouth.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Oh, it's not just conservative.
It's Derek too.
It's me too.
Derek for mayor.
Yeah, there you go. Now this
I think it just tanked your career.
The seed was laid early, so if I ever do run for mayor. But yeah, like I meant more trolling us that they aren't trolls, but if they want to attack what I said. Yeah, if you have any comments about the provincial and federal election, like let us know.
You know what we should do? Closer probably to January. We should do up our predictions. So we can do provincial and federal. We can post our predictions. And to clarify, it's not going to be who we hope will win. It'll be who, like, about give or take a year out from an election, where we think things will fall.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we can even break it down to like how many seats we think each person will get, and then we can post like a bingo card copy of it if anyone else wants to
join in. Like some of our viewers. I think that would be fun, and I think our audience would potentially engage with that.
I think it could be fun, right? Because then you can kind of as well see like how things shift. We could even do a redo of it like the week before the election.
Yeah, like we could do like here's like a month out view, and then here's a week, because in elections, literally one news story can switch the tides, right? Like
the last 3 days. No, you've got to beat the advanced polls. You can get away with sticking your foot in your mouth the week of election, as long as you get all your people out to the advanced polls first.
Yeah, that's true. I guess, there is like that kind of like buffer zone where it's like from the actual election day to advanced polls, but if you're before those, it's just like, oh boy. You can say stuff after people have already voted. That'd be the worst feeling though. Could you imagine being a voter who goes to an advanced poll and the day after you're like, oh fuck.
Although I can mobilize people to get out and vote so you don't get in, but...
Well, and that's happening in America right now. Like currently the midterm elections are more based around who they don't want in than anyone really supporting a candidate per se. They're coming out in droves to make sure that the Democrats don't win or that the Republicans don't. And it's like, that's bad voting. Like, and I don't mean to say that, like, voting is a good thing. Vote when you can, vote often. Like, I advocate for that. But it's a dangerous place to be in a democracy when you're fighting for, like, colors at that point. You know what I mean? Like, do we want blue or red? No.
No.
Vote
purple.
Yeah. Vote for your local candidates, because you're not going to have a good government if anyone's focusing too far ahead. Especially in Canada, you do not vote for the Prime Minister. Vote for your local MP. Like
that can be a contentious issue for some people.
That's true, and like I understand.
This was always a fight at my house growing up.
Was it? Okay.
Do you vote for the leader? Do you vote for the party?
Or do you vote for the person? Yeah, like those are the three things that like. Obviously, like you have to make that wagering.
You have that. Like, which way do you vote? Right. We hate the local candidate. However, we like the leader and the party.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, and like
I've been politically involved way before I could vote. Right.
Yeah.
So we would sit there and fight, and then my parents would tell me how they voted anyway. Guarantee it was conservative.
For me, in particular, I argue that you should always vote for the candidate first, because if you're looking at it.
So if you're in the States, would you vote if the Republican was the best?
Because in America, you have the glorious thing of having a president who is toothless, in the sense that like you can have a president who doesn't control Senate.
He'd be toothless, but he's not Twitterless.
Of course, right? So it's like you can vote for like who you want for president, who you want for your Senate, who you want for your Congress. Whereas in Canada, you got one vote to try to clear out 3 spaces that you have. So it's one of those things where it's like voting for a prime minister, in my mind, is really wasting the potential of a government, in the sense that you're letting so many candidates right off of their party colors or their leader to get elected, and that happens all the time where you come to certain ridings that traditionally sway one way, and then they can literally just throw in an incompetent person, get them elected, doesn't matter, they're going to vote in their favor for the party, but then that constituency has no representation. That's the problem, in my opinion, is that like so many people don't take that into consideration when they're voting, is what's going to happen to you at a local level. No, I'm not going to go there.
Don't open a can of worms. We're almost done.
Did
you have any final thoughts?
No, I've ranted enough, I guess. No other comments from the audience?
No.
Just a bunch of hellos. Hello to everyone who said hello again. Do you have any closing statements?
Oh, well, this totally sounds like something we could get into, is the electoral system closer to. And we should totally think up a few things to help with voter engagement.
We're going to be like the Don Cherries of political commentary come election times. Where it's like,
some of these suits.
Yeah, we're going to have to buy weird suits, and we're both going to be yelling, and it's not even going to be partisan related. It'll be all process related or something. Like,
can we get podiums?
Yeah, get a podium. I think that'll be fun, and I imagine we'll have like a lot of viewers during that time
because of the suits.
Yeah, it's
and
because of the suits. Yes. Yeah, but I think just around elections, I think people will want to to join in the discussion, right? So.
Well, thanks for tuning in. Thanks again, Jesse, for running our show as per usual and putting up with our nonsense.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm Devin Hargreaves. This is Derek St. Jean, and we will catch you in 2 weeks. We might have a special episode coming up. We will keep you posted.
Yeah.